Hello and welcome to Coffee with Dr. Carla. I'm Dr. Carla. This is Simone, and we are so glad that you're here with us today. Our goal today is to talk about various mental health related issues and hopefully start to end the stigma surrounding them. And so one of the things that intrigued me when I first met you was that, well, first of all, that you like to clean, which I hate to clean, so like whatever. But more than cleaning, but like this idea that you had where clutter, disorganization impacts mental health. And so I am sure there are people who are like, no, I don't care about cleaning. I can have my stuff wherever. It doesn't bother me. What would you say to people like, so what if I have clutter? So what? Why should anyone care about having clutter?
Well, clutter is, it can cause a lot of dysfunction, and it can throw off your whole trajectory of your life without you knowing it. As time goes on, you neglect it so much, or if you're in denial, it can just really lead to serious health issues like mental health, mental illness. And a lot of people don't even understand what it means to be cluttered. So it's kind of hard for them to come to terms with it being a real issue.
So if I heard you right, maybe you and I might walk into a space and think it's cluttered, but that person might think that it's organized because they can find all the things, right? So a lot of stuff ends up going under the radar, and they miss out on those perhaps smaller red flags that maybe there's a bigger issue at hand.
Because they tend to become comfortable with the dysfunction. The dysfunction becomes somewhat of a functionality for them, and they just get comfortable with it, and then they make it work for them, but not knowing the harm behind it.
So I wonder, so there was a time where I had the luxury of a separate office that I used to call my messy office. And so whenever I was writing or whatever, I would have my stacks of papers all over the place. And it was messy, right? But I knew where everything was. It was the way my process went, and obviously I wouldn't bring clients in there or have any other human beings in there because I had piles of papers everywhere that I'm using to write whatever it is that I'm writing. No more messy office, but then now I take a large table and spread out the same way. But then I have to clean it up because I can't leave it out, right? What do you see as the line between something like that, and maybe I need to talk to somebody about that, or like what makes it something that I needed to get help about, or that it's just a process in how I maybe write for my living?
I would say consider time. How much time does that take to complete that task? How do you feel when you're doing that? Do you see a better fit? Is it problematic for you? Is it something that's sustainable? That's one of the biggest things. Is it really sustainable, or is it just kind of like draining you in the process? So those are some of the things to consider.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we're going to keep using me as an example, it worked well because my piles were, these articles are about this topic, and these articles are about this topic, so as I'm thinking about how I'm writing an article or whatever, they pertain to that. So that made sense to have my piles everywhere, as opposed to this, stack that I was trying to work through. And I'm sure there might be a way to do it slightly different. The time factor for me would have been the fact that without a separate messy office, I can't leave them out. And so the time factor would be that I'd have to pull them out, spread them out. When I'm done, gather them up and put them away. So then I would have to decide, is that time worth it? Right?
And probably not, right?
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Right? Because when I'm in that creative mode, for me, that all makes sense. Right? So that's interesting. Now, I guess maybe when, I'm just thinking about, especially like when I was getting my doctorate, the messy office was a necessity, right? And so I don't know how I don't know, the stress and whatnot that I was feeling, was that doctoral or was that messy office, or maybe they were compounding them, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it could be both.
Could be both.
Definitely could be both.
So, are there some more concrete type red flags that people could look out for? Because some of the things you suggested there are very subjective. And I think that depending on, how you are in regards to your own mental health, you may or may not be fully realistic or objective about that outcome. But are there some other ones that are a little bit harder to dispute? Like, did it take too much time for me? I'd be like, no, that's perfectly fine. Whereas somebody else might say, oh yeah, it took too much time. There's a lot of subjectivity there. Are there other red flags that perhaps are a little harder to kind of explain off, that people might need to be aware of? So if this is an issue, they might say, oh, maybe I need some help with this.
I would say one of the biggest red flags is like forgetfulness. Like, do you tend to forget where things are? Because I hear what you're saying. You're saying like, oh, I know where this is and I kind of have this categorized, right? But in the same token, are you forgetting other things? It may not even be related to that specific thing.
Right. Does it take me half an hour to find my keys?
Yes.
Even though I have hooks on the wall for the keys, they're almost never there.
Yes. What are your systems?
Yep. Okay. So, all right. So then I'll confess, when it comes to academia and writing, I have great systems, right? Personal life, maybe not so much, because every day we're like, did I bring home my calendar? Where are my keys? Does anyone see right?
Right.
And I blame that on ADD, right? But and I'm not saying that that's not it, but there's more to it.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so let's say, because I know this is an area, a passion for you. So let's say somebody who's watching us says, oh my God, that's me. I need help, right? Like, what could somebody expect if they were to contact us and, ask to work with you? What could somebody expect during their time with you?
They can expect first to identify what they have already attempted to do, or what's working for them and what's not. But before we can get to that point, we have to see and really face reality if there's a current issue. Is it really an issue? Is it an issue for your family, your household, or is it an issue for yourself? So just the assessment process, and then we will have to further identify, where do we want to go from here? What is your ideal lifestyle? What is your ideal home? What is your ideal everyday life? Is it functional? So those are some of the things that we would work with.
That's good. Yeah. And I can imagine it might be a little scary to let somebody actually look at, the disorganization that has become your home or your car or whatever the case may be. Right. But I also know that the longer we keep this quiet or secret, and pretend like it's not happening, that's shame going to town. And boy, shame likes to fester in the dark. So if we can get it out of the dark and start actually talking about it, no matter how hard it might be to actually do that, in the end, it's going to, yield better things, right? So, and we know as counselors that this is not a shaming process. This is like, let's figure out where it is that you want to go so it could be the best thing for you. Yes. This isn't about judgment. So I appreciate your thoughts on that. Remember, you can change your thoughts, discover your potential, and transform your life by focusing on your overall well-being. So until next time, continue working on the best you possible. Bye.
Thank you.